Reaching out from beyond the grave with stories to give you the chills, the Kool Ghoul on 66.6 Dead Air Radio. Tonight's terrifying tale comes from a young lady whose chance encounter on a mountainside road leaves her howling in terror. Happy Horror Days, Groovy Ghoulies. It's your maniacal MC, the Kool Ghoul. You know, Christmas shopping is like the full moon. Both drive people crazy. But who wouldn't go crazy from the constant howl of Mariah Carey? Speaking of full moons, our caller has a story we can really sink our teeth into. Alright, lucky number 13, you're on the air.
The moon rode high, fat, and full. Its silvery glow illuminated the snowy mountain road. Good visibility despite the freshly fallen snow, but I was in a hurry and doing 40 in a 25, which meant I had no time to react to the wolf crossing the road. Instinctually, I slammed on the brakes, sending the car into a slide across the wet snow and in direct line with its path. We met in an explosion of meat and metal. The car jumped, and when it came down, my head came with it, straight into the steering wheel. I woke to the exhausted wheeze of my car horn, a warbling flatline punctuated by the rhythmic clanks of my engine as it gave up the ghost. The world swam, a dreamy kaleidoscope of reds that slowly came into focus, revealing the car's window, a spiderweb of glass and blood. I carefully touched the tender spot at the base of my nose. The skin felt puffy and warm, buzzing with an electric numbness. My body felt stiff, the muscles still tense from the anticipation of the impact. I tried my door, but it wouldn't open. The panel had buckled, pinching the hinges shut, so I crawled over the various presents I bought for my family's Christmas Eve get-together and exited through the back passenger side door. I stood on the side of the mountain road and looked at my handiwork. The Taurus sat high on a snowdrift, the hood folded back on itself and the car's guts cooling as long wisps of steam dissolving into the cold night air. Totaled. No way I was driving this thing out of here, I thought, running my hand through my hair. The impact with the animal had popped my trunk open, littering the road with my emergency kit and the camping gear I'd been too lazy to unpack. I pulled my pea coat tight to keep out the cold and walked the road to where the wolf had been, bits of the bumper and a splash of dark red mixed with paw prints leading back to the tree line where the wolf had emerged. Poor thing, I thought, worried it was suffering somewhere. Heading back to the car, I decided to gather what gifts I could carry and walk the road. I figured I was maybe an hour or two walk from the main road and a more reliable source for traffic. With any luck, I'd catch a ride to the family get-together and be back with some help in a truck we could hitch to my car. My arms filled with the few gifts whose wrapping still looked presentable. I turned to close the door with my foot when I saw the massive wolf in the center of the road. Its yellow eyes stared at me with a calm rage. The shoulders and chest matted and wet, soaked in blood, the cold glow of the moon reflected in the liquid. The wolf stood up on its hind legs with a low whine in one smooth movement, revealing its hand-like paws. The beast rose to its full height, and the sound grew in pitch, crescendoing into a scream, and the wolf charged, stooping down onto all fours, its hands throwing trails of powder behind it. I dropped my gifts and jumped into the back seat of the Taurus. The door closed behind me, the wolf's body slammed against the car, and the door buckled. A surge of snow covered the seats. It threw its body against the car again, pushing it deeper into the snowbank. Its black lips pulled back in a snarl. Long yellow teeth glowed in the moonlight, nostrils flared in audible gusts that fogged the window. The wolf grabbed the car handle with its malformed hand and pulled the door from the hinges with one good tug. The door sailed through the sky, landing on a puff of snow behind the beast. I crawled between the front seats as it struggled to pull itself inside. The wolf turned in the back seat, its awkward body fumbling in the tight quarters. One large paw reached for me as I exited the car through the passenger side door, catching the back of my calf. The long claws digging into my muscle, and I screamed in pain. I pulled free of the beast, falling face first into the snow. A howl of rage, and the car shook as it fought to turn around and exit the door it had just come in. I pulled myself up and ran past the wolf and the vehicle, towards the camping gear spread across the road, and towards my hatchet. Behind me, the wolf freed itself from the car and crawled over the hood with a frustrated roar. It leapt, landing on the ground. Billows of snow puffed into the air, coating its fur in a fine powder. The beast shook itself and shambled towards me. I grabbed the hatchet and swung just in time to bury the blade into the collarbone. The wolf screamed, its arms closing around me, and we fell forward. We hit the ground and the wolf let go, rolling onto its back, its misshapen hands fumbling for the hatchet handle. I got to my feet and tried to run, but the wolf grabbed me and pulled me down again. I clawed at the ground, pulling myself away from the wolf as it freed the hatchet from its collarbone. The wolf pulled me backward, and my hand caught on something cold, thin, and metal. One of my tent spikes. I gripped the spike, rolled onto my back, and with all my strength I sat up and stabbed the rod downwards. The golden eye of the wolf disappeared in an instant. The beast released my leg and grabbed its empty socket with a howl of pain. I stood up and ran towards the emergency kit and the flare lane beside it. The wolf whimpered, pawing delicately at the spot its eye used to be, and with a snarl it stood up on its hind legs. Great exhaustive breaths sprayed foam and froth, and the wolf stalked towards me, its muscles tensed, the malformed hands opening and closing on empty air. I wiped the snow from the flare, popped the head, and took a deep breath, then struck the starter. A burst of neon red and a loud sizzle filled the air. The wolf stopped. It studied the flare for a moment before it lunged. The force of its body knocked the wind from my lungs and the rod from my hand. We fell backward, the wolf's mouth closing around my arm, its large head shaking back and forth, ripping through my muscles and severing tendons. I blindly groped for the flare with my free hand, clawing at the snow until I felt the sting of hot sparks. My hand landing on the body of the rod, I shoved the burning head into the wolf's mouth, forcing it past the teeth and into its throat. The shower of sparks burned through the arm of the peacoat trapped in the wolf's mouth, singeing my skin. I pushed the flare further in, the wolf fighting against me, squealing in pain. It broke away, stumbling on all fours, heading towards the trees. Hot burst of neon sprayed from within its mouth. The beast crawled to the edge of the road, gasping and whimpering until it collapsed. The adrenaline faded and I fell backward into the snow. My body ached, the sharp stabbing pain of my wounds replaced by a dull throb. My brain slow and groggy, as if in the grips of a bad hangover. I lay on the road, puffs of breath drifting upwards as I watched the snowflakes silently fall in slow, lazy arcs, landing on my face. My blood pooled around me, soaking into the snow, thin wisps of steam as the two mixed, melting into each other. Above me, silvery moonlight shone through the trees, and I felt a strange comfort in its cold glow.
Thanks for your call. I know the holidays can be stressful, but woof. After a night like that, I'd need a drink. Or 12. A little hair of the dog that bit ya. That's it for the show. Happy holidays. And check out the link in the description to a scary story from a spooky channel I like. If you enjoyed the show, give me a like and subscribe for more spooky content. and click that little bell icon so you know when the next show is out. As always, I'll be waiting here for the next 13th caller.